Hi, and welcome back to Extra, your weekly LGBTQIA+ news roundup in which I serve you all the tea so that you don't have to do the deep diving yourself. Today, I have for you politics, culture, business, sports, and as usual, our awards segment at the very end where I'll be serving you your slay of the week and also your ew of the week. If this is your first time here, thank you so much for clicking on my video. Hi! If you enjoy this content, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and without further ado, let's get into it. Argentina's new president, Javier Milei, has eliminated the Ministry for Women, Gender and Diversity and reassigned its tasks to the Ministry of Human Capitals only days after taking office, meaning this was one of the very first things on his agenda, which he's allegedly done in order to save on government spendings. He also has plans to eliminate many of the ministries for things that I personally would deem some of the most important. For example, ministries that are in charge of environment, social justice, health, education.
Why are you the way that you are?
Again, Milei is justifying all of these cuts with reducing government spending, but none of this is really surprising to the Argentinian people. There have been a lot of protests and marches against Milei and his intended changes to Argentina's government. I've spoken about Milei in a previous video, which I will link down below. In that video, I did say we'd stay tuned on whether Milei's far-right stances will have any influences on our community, and it seems like they already have. Not having a ministry in itself that is dedicated to equality, social justice in terms of gender and diversity can only mean negative repercussions. What exactly those are, I guess we'll find out. The European Court of Human Rights has ruled that Poland's laws around same-sex relationships are in violation of international human rights law. Currently, Poland does not recognize same-sex relationships in any legal way, neither as civil unions nor as marriage, and so provides no legal framework around queer relationships.
And you can't sit with us.
In 2016, a similar ruling about Italy's laws surrounding same-sex marriage then led to Italy introducing same-sex civil unions later that same year. So there is hope that it will mean the same thing for Poland. At the moment, Poland ranks as the worst country within the European Union to be queer in. It has carried that title 3 years in a row now. I am hopeful that that will change now with Poland's new government under Donald Tusk, which will be more liberal and more progressive than the previous very right-wing government. But Poland being a largely Roman Catholic country, there is quite a lot of resistance, and so I think it'll be baby steps. In Uganda, various civilian groups have submitted an appeal against the Ugandan Anti-Homosexuality Act, which came into effect in spring this year, 2023. I talked about that Ugandan law in a previous video more specifically. I'll again link that video down below, but in a nutshell, the current Anti-Homosexuality Act criminalizes any promotion of the LGBTQ+ community and LGBTQ+ rights.
Ew!
In the past 7 months or so since that law was introduced, it's already had a huge negative impact on sexual health services available. It has resulted in a higher number of STIs transmitted, some of those even resulting in death because of the lack of sexual health services. Uganda has seen a rise in homelessness, especially in young people, because they're being kicked out by their family for being queer. Also, obviously, a law like that gives way to a lot of homophobic and transphobic violence, meaning that the queer community in Uganda is in constant fear of discrimination, of violence, of attacks, of blackmail, and has also meant that queer people have been denied healthcare by practicing doctors, which has led to many fleeing the country to more progressive African countries. And it's incredibly brave for any civilian to stand up against this act, seeing as how much violence it is already justified. I don't think it's going too far to say that the people who are behind this appeal are risking their lives. And so I think that deserves not just a mention, but a very heartfelt thank you from our community all over the world for standing up for us. The US American state of Ohio has passed a bill that prohibits all gender-affirming care for minors, as well as banning trans teenagers from joining the sports teams of the gender with which they identify, which will make Ohio the 23rd US American state to block gender-affirming healthcare for minors.
Oh, I'd kill for a good coma right now.
I think people, when they think of gender-affirming care for teenagers, immediately jump to gender reassignment surgery and facial reconstruction surgery and top surgery, as in mastectomies, and it very, very rarely is that. Most of that gender-affirming care comes in the form of puberty blockers, which are only a way of delaying the onset and the development of puberty. They are very much reversible. When you stop taking them, puberty will hit. And so all they really do is buy that person some time to decide whether they want to take that gender-affirming care further or whether they don't. Trans teenagers getting surgery is very far from the norm. The rates of depression and suicide in trans kids and teenagers are so high compared to cisgender teenagers that really all of these anti-gender affirming care laws will cost lives, will cost the lives of children. And so that's what's so backwards and so ironic about all of this, is that the same people who claim to be pro-life are the same people who are putting children at risk by blocking them from receiving the healthcare that they need. And if you're not going to provide gender-affirming care, then at least provide funded therapy, but you're not going to do that either, are you? The part of that bill that blocks transgender teens from joining the school sports teams of the gender with which they identify, it is important to note that Ohio has 400,000 student athletes, and I'm going to let you take a guess how many of those 400,000 identify as trans. It is 6. 6 of 400,000 student athletes, 0.0015% are trans, or 1.5 people out of 100,000. That number just shows you what a rare exception trans people and trans teenagers are, and how completely blown out of proportion the amount of media attention and the amount of hatred that is being directed at the trans community currently is. Hey, this is the halfway point of this week's video, and I'm just jumping in here to say that if you're enjoying this content, please give this video a like, subscribe to my channel, and let's get back to the video. The Hallmark Channel has promised more queer-forward and more diverse Christmas movies in 2024.
Daddy?
We all know, and I think most of us have seen at least one cheesy Hallmark movie in our time. Needless to say, most of them are very white, very heteronormative, and Hallmark declaring that they're going to make an effort to be more diverse and more inclusive is very positive, because despite what you might think, many people watch these films. And as we all know, media representation really matters. Seeing yourself reflected on screen and seeing that other people out there like you exist seems like such a minute and unimportant thing, but it really matters for many people. Hallmark has already started to be more queer inclusive with 2 of their films this year, one of them being Christmas on Cherry Lane, which features a gay couple, as in 2 men, and the other Christmas film is called A Friends and Family Christmas, which has a lesbian romance at its core. So that's really exciting, and I'm sure is somewhat of a risk for the Hallmark Channel, because I would very much assume that large portion of their viewership are very traditional, likely middle-aged viewers who might genuinely take offense at this shift towards inclusion. We all remember what happened with Bud Light just because they did a collaboration with a trans influencer.
Extremely disappointing.
And so I appreciate the conscious step towards inclusion, even if it is a bit late in the game. Elon Musk has launched his own, or Twitter's own, chatbot as a rival to ChatGPT named Grok, which he had previously promised would be more neutral in terms of its political stance. But it turns out that against all odds, Grok is an ally. The word grok comes from the 1961 science fiction novel Stranger in a Strange Land by Robert A. Heinlein and is defined as meaning to empathize or communicate sympathetically or to understand profoundly. An ironic name choice for a chatbot that is intended to be exclusive and homophobic, because users who are fans of Elon Musk pretty much immediately started testing out whether this chatbot was transphobic and homophobic like they are. And one of the questions was, are trans women women? To which Grok said yes. So, welcome, Grok, to this side of the internet, I guess. It has sparked a lot of outrage. Just a bunch of ex-users, Twitter users, and Elon Musk stans who are very upset that this chatbot doesn't share their bigoted views. Grok also gave a whole explanation of the difference between gender and sex, which I just think it's so deliciously ironic, right? It's worth noting that not everyone fits neatly into the binary categories of male and female. Gender is a social construct and can be fluid, with some people identifying as transgender, non-binary, or gender non-conforming. Needless to say, users did not like that and then went into a panic that this new chatbot had actually been hijacked somehow by woke programmers. When I feel like I say this in every video, all it takes is just to know your biology from your social studies. And Grok knows that. Online messaging and social platform Discord have updated their hateful conduct policy, now officially banning misgendering and dead naming on their platform, which is a huge win, seeing as many social media platforms don't have any regulations about hate speech against trans people specifically, and especially also seeing that since Elon Musk took over Twitter, there's been an incredibly steep rise in hateful behavior and hate speech against the queer community on there. Dead naming and misgendering are the most common weapons used against trans streamers and trans users on the platform.
Ew.
Discord has 140 million monthly users, which is equivalent to the entire population of Russia or the populations of Germany and Italy combined. All this to say, that is really great news. Thank you, Discord. Earlier this month, a transgender Irish dancer has won an Irish dancing competition in the south of Ireland and has thereby sparked backlash. A petition was launched to ban transgender girls from competing in the girls' categories. And in response to that, thankfully, there was also a petition raised to keep Irish dancing inclusive. I am actually a trained dancer myself, albeit not trained in Irish dance, but I think the notion of having a biological advantage, especially when you're competing against those that aren't the same sex as you, actually puts you at a disadvantage, not as an advantage. At least in ballet, it would. But this is a statement from the official body for Irish dance in Ireland. They're called, well, the CLRG, because it's in Irish, and I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that. But they have given a statement saying, Irish dancing is not a sport in which any gender has an advantage, and that competitions are judged on the following categories: rhythm, turnout, crossover, by which I have to assume they mean the amount that your feet cross, like your legs cross over each other when you're in the air, pointed feet, toe height, flexibility, and posture, none of which are affected by assigned birth sex. The CLRG has since doubled down on their inclusive stance, but this entire story just kind of highlights how ridiculous transphobia is and how ridiculous the lengths that people are willing to go to in order to sit in their transphobia is just insane to me.
Yeah, I get a little frustrated when I'm dealing with incompetence.
It's Irish dancing, for crying out loud. Let people enjoy the sport. What's your problem? Just let people enjoy things. We've got the Slay of the Week. And we also have the Ew of the Week. The Slay of the Week goes to all of the Ugandan civilians who are standing up against this extreme anti-homosexuality act in Uganda. Again, I have to imagine that these people are putting their lives on the line. A big round of applause and a big heartfelt thank you to all of the Ugandan civilians who are about to go into court in order to hopefully make a difference. And the ew of the week goes to politicians everywhere who ignore facts, science, and a number of studies in order to continuously attack the trans community. It is actually laughable at this point how against science and against fact, all of their factual statements of men are men and women are women, all of the studies, all of the science is on our side. We have so much bigger things to focus our energies and our resources on. The amount of rape cases that go unquestioned and ignored, and the amount of domestic violence against women. We're focusing on the wrong things. And part of the reason that I'm doing this is to have a one-stop shop for anyone who is interested in queer news and to kind of deliver things as factually as possible. Of course, I'm biased. I am a private person with my own opinions, but I always try to deliver the fact and the headline and then my opinion as kind of separate things. I hope that I leave enough room for your own opinions to form about things. And even though I can't influence what the headlines are that I get to report on, I can put them in context with other things. I am going to always strive to not sensationalize things. So I hope I'm being moderately successful in that. And that little monologue brings us to the end of this video. If you're still here, if you're still watching this, thank you so much. Please give this video a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, share the Christmas cheer, and I'll see you here again next week. Bye.